Hey guys, welcome back to the Brik House. Brik Dawkins here with week 6 of the U Impact tier list. So we got quite a long patch. Usually patches are done in 2 parts, but we see here that this one had a part 3 to it, which we did go over last week. But for this week, we got quite a bit of movement for some Pokemon, mostly from our attackers. So if you enjoy the video, don't forget to like and subscribe. And without further ado, let's get right into it. So before we start, we just got a little bit of movement that happened in between the tiers. So we had like Blissey move up to the top of the tier. Psyduck actually had moved down to the solid pick tier. His win rate had been slipping a little bit this past week. Also a little bit of rearrangement with the defenders, putting Crustle now at the top, followed by Lapras and Umbreon, just switching up their order a little bit over there. And there might be about 1 or 2 changes down the list. But anyways, let's start with the main list. And as usual, we will start with our attackers in Pokédex number order. And the first one up will be Venusaur, who was at the top of our solid pick for the last week, right under Latios. And to be honest, Venusaur is doing a bit poor right now. So you'll see here that Venusaur has actually overtaken Inteleon for the worst win rate in the game. Inteleon, ever since getting those nerfs, had seen a tremendous slip in his win rate. And honestly, as I mentioned before, a lot of attackers are kind of hovering around this 46 to 48% win rate. And it's not looking that good for a lot of attackers right now, but especially for a Pokemon like Venusaur, it's looking exceptionally bad. So being said, Venusaur is still a fairly versatile pick. The Petal Dance set is, I would say, his better of the 2 sets, as it's more of a late game orientated set. Although the trouble he's kind of finding himself into right now is that a lot of these all-rounders are playing extremely aggressive early, and when we're playing like a 3-stage attacker Pokemon like Venusaur and getting set behind in that early game stage, it tends to put us a lot more behind than other Pokemon, and even prevents us sometimes from even like getting online that game. So with all that being said, we're gonna move Venusaur down to the not bad tier. We'll put him right behind Alolan Ninetales for now. We'll kind of see if his win rate kind of jumps up for the next week or 2. Moving on, we got Alolan RAICHU, who we will be putting at the very top of the solid pick tier. So Alolan RAICHU had a pretty crazy 2 weeks. Right before the patch, it actually saw around like 46-47% win rate, which was one of the lowest in the entire game out of any attacker. And so the following week, Pokemon Unite actually buffed its Electro Ball by 10%, and you'll see here that its win rate had actually just shot up by 3.01%. So it's definitely a buff that probably wasn't too needed. It was a bit interesting seeing that Alolan RAICHU's win rate wasn't just consistently high as it has usually been week over week. Although this 10% increase definitely was a little bit overboard, and RAICHU's just doing so much damage right now. One of the best picks you can be using for this week. You definitely want to get all those Electro Ball games in before it gets nerfed again, which I would imagine it will. Its damage is a bit crazy right now. So moving on, we got Espeon, who was in our solid pick tier, and it'll be the first of the EVs that we'll go through that have actually seen, again, quite the dramatic fall. We see Espeon at, I think, the 6th lowest in the game. Did see quite a jump this last week, a 0.49% increase. That isn't quite saying much, seeing how we're only at a 47.75. So it got better this week, which is nice, but it has been proving to be kind of just this inconsistent Pokemon. Put him into the hands of a player who can really hit those skill shots, and you can find some value with Espeon. But it seems that you really gonna need some of this frontline tankiness that the game is kind of lacking in the solo queue sense right now, and Espeon is a Pokemon that definitely is going to need a good frontline or supporter to back it up. So sadly, we're going to have to put Espeon down to a not bad tier. We're going to put it just behind Mewtwo Y. Mewtwo Y kind of being able to put more pressure on by itself, and also being a Pokemon that doesn't evolve, able to consistently put on that pressure in that early game, whereas Eevee can kind of get shut down if the enemy team kind of susses you out and then just starts wailing on your lane, not letting you get to your next stage. So next we got Latios, and for a couple weeks we have been putting Latios at the top of the solid pick tier, and the question is, will this week be the same? Well, if we go over to the win rates, we see that Latios still rocking the highest out of any attacker, with a 53% win rate. The second highest being RAICHU at a 51%, and again, that's it got a 3% increase, so big gap between Latios and the rest of these attackers. But then really what I have personally been keeping him for my must play, because again, you can't play a Pokemon that's banned all the time, but has been the ban rate. And usually it's closer to like 90%. Although I've been noticing that Latios has been getting through a lot of games recently. And it's really at the pick rate now we look at where it's really reflecting that. And we see, again, a 2.82% increase, nearly 3% increase in this Pokemon being played, being able to get through. So I think it's really time to say that Latios is our must play for this week. It does see it's around like a 1 in 3 chance you actually might be able to have a Latios in your game, and those honestly aren't so bad odds. And you know, play about 4 or 5 games and you might actually be able to get that Latios pick. I suspect that this ban rate is actually a bit too high right now, and is actually realistically even lower than this 84% and closer to like a 70% range. It's definitely not a Pokemon that you see be insta-banned every single game anymore. So next we got Glaceon, and again, the second evolution that is going to be moving down. We see Glaceon's win rate is very similar to Espeon's. It's at 48.08%, just 1% higher than Espeon's, and we'll be putting it slightly higher than Espeon as well because of that. Again, very similar Pokemon in that regard, although as Espeon is a skill shot based Pokemon, Glaceon tends to be more point and click heavy, kind of line yourself up and then get your icicle spears out. A bit more reliable to get that off, but again, it's just a bit hard to get to that late game potential when there's so many all-rounders right now just running around and stopping these attackers from getting ahead to that late game stage before anyone else can catch up. So next we got Greninja, who was in our must-play tier last week, and he will be moving down, not because he has been performing poorly or anything, but because the options above him currently are just performing so well. And that would obviously be Latios and Alolan RAICHU. But personally, I think Miraidon might be a better pick for this week than Greninja, as when it comes to attackers, Miraidon is a really reliable attacker and has incredible range. A lot of Pokemon who are relying on other Pokemon to support them or defend them have been seeing a dramatic drop in their win rate in the last couple of weeks. And Miraidon's one of those Pokemon who can very excel by himself, and even a Pokemon that you can run in the jungle, just like Greninja. And I think that versatility that Miraidon offers and also benefits your team just slightly outweighs what Greninja can offer, and I would definitely recommend playing Miraidon slightly more than Greninja for this next week. So the last attacker that we have is the last evolution, which is Sylveon. And just like the aforementioned evolutions, Sylveon has seen quite the fall and is honestly the highest out of all 3 of them, of the attacking evolutions, although rocking that 48% win rate and just going down from this last week. We'll put Sylveon right besides the other 2. So so Sylveon being kind of like the AoE CC variant of the 2 other evolutions, a lot of its kit revolving around damaging multiple enemies instead of the single target nature that the other 2 EVs provide. And team fighting, again, being so impactful, especially during that raid fight being the pivotal moment of the game. The CC and AoE you provide will be very useful for the rest of your team, as well as being just naturally tankier than the 2 other evolutions. So that is all of our attackers. Now we're going to be moving on to our all-rounders, and we only got 2 we're going to be moving today. First being Mewtwo X, and Mewtwo X is honestly, I think he's one of the lower attacker win rates, and honestly, as most people will say about these Pokemon, and I do myself, it's a boring Pokemon to play. Not the one you do recommend first to anyone who's looking to pick up a new Pokemon, despite on how good or bad it is. It's just the nature of its playstyle. Again, it's not the worst pick you can have. I think we had it rather high last week, so we're going to be moving it down to the not bad tier, and we'll just move it just behind Lucario. Even though Lucario seems to be lacking a lot of damage that these other all-rounders have, you'll still see a lot of Lucarios, and I mean, I gotta agree, Lucario's a very fun Pokemon to play, so on that basis, we're going to be putting Lucario over Mewtwo X. The last all-rounder that we got is Metagross, and Metagross, just like these other Pokemon, has been seeing a vast slip in his win rate. So if you look over here, the lowest win rate out of any all-rounder in the game right now is currently Metagross, rocking a 47.59% win rate, going down 2.22% from the last week. And again, as I said earlier, his win rate has actually been just slipping kinda in the background. Metagross isn't exactly the most reliable Pokemon that you want to follow up with your engagements. He can cover like a large area of the field, and it's nice to get that KO, but as in terms of initiating for your fight, you can actually go real far out and actually prevent your team from providing any adequate follow-up. And when it comes to just all-rounders that can initiate the team fight, especially that Rayquaza team fight, we do unfortunately have better options than Metagross right now. So Metagross going to be moving down from the solid pick tier, and will be moving just behind Garchomp in the not bad tier. Garchomp being a really good option for initiating a Rayquaza team fight. Also just above Mimikyu, who just like Metagross isn't the best for initiating that fight. You have a lot of distance that you can cover with that Shadow Sneak that makes it so your team can't follow up adequately. And it's just that a bit of inconsistency is why they're going to be moving down compared to some of these other all-rounders that are just a bit more consistent. So next we're going to be moving on to our speedsters, and the first one up that we got is Absol. And Absol we had in the could be better tier, and we're just going to be moving him up to the not bad tier. We'll be putting him just above Darkrai. So up until now, we've been putting one Pokemon of each role in that Brik position, kind of as signaling the last place Pokemon. Although with the speedsters, it is almost impossible to have a last place that I'm kind of happy on putting there. They're very similar in their playstyles right now, and not really in a bad position. They can consistently get some results, unlike a lot of these other Pokemon that we find in this could be better tier. So for this time, we're not going to be having any speedster in the bottom Brik tier, but we're going to be moving Meowscarada up to the could be better tier, just in the bottom. Is a bit trickier when it comes to these other speedsters, not as straightforward as say like Talonflame or Absol, or even when compared to like Dodrio or Galarian Rapidash, who do very different things on the map. They are more of a relevant meta picks for that solo queue, and will probably be finding more success on Pokemon such as those. But again, not to say that these Pokemon are doing too bad, and we might even move them up to the not bad position, depending on how they perform in these next couple weeks. So the last we got is the supports, and we will skip Latias for now and move Eldegoss from the Brik to the could be better tier, just at the top there. And again, another one where I was very close to putting no support in this Brik position, because supports are, for the most part, very niche, or they're good at what they're doing. Eldegoss honestly is not that bad of a support. It's just kind of outclassed when we're comparing to these other supports in a solo queue sense. If dealing damage as a support is something that you're trying to do, you have options like Alcremie that are much better to run. However, now going back to Latias, I was about to put it in the not bad tier, just behind Hoopa, as it's more of that niche pick that does a lot better with special attackers on your team. Although the more I'm playing Latias, the less and less excited I am about this Pokemon. And now even when you were looking at its win rate, we see it rocking a 47.98 win rate. It's actually going down this last week. So for consideration, they just buffed Latias and its win rate went down by nearly 2%. I'm struggling on how to fit Latias into the conversation of useful, to be honest. Right now I've been trying to kind of like make some outs for Latias, say okay, no, but I could be good at this regard, be good at this regard, but I think we're just gonna have to call it at this point. And Latias is honestly a bad release. They need to maybe workshop this Pokemon a little bit more, or perhaps what it's gonna take is just legitimately more special attacking Pokemon to release. But right now, Latias is actually like really bad, and it's terrible at what you're like supposed to be doing, a damage dealing support. And unlike Sableye, there is no specific playstyle to justify kind of like that low win rate, right? Sableye being a very tricky Pokemon, so understandable why a lot of players pick up Sableye and don't do the best with him. Doesn't mean that he's not a good Pokemon by any of those means. It's just hard to play. Latias is beyond hard to play really at this point, and just not that good, sadly. And again, maybe it takes releasing better Pokemon for Latias to support, or just completely reimagining its moveset a little bit and not focusing on the damage aspect, because right now even like doing things like buffing its Mist Ball by 200% makes its win rate go down by nearly 2%. So very disheartening to see a release. And yeah, that's going to be this week's tier list. At the very top, we got Latios, and at the very bottom, we got Latias. Great to pair them together, at least. It's, you know, Latios can levitate to Latias, and, you know, definitely gonna benefit from that special attack decrease. But yeah, I mean, again, there's still, even at that point, other supporters you could take. Even Hoopa would probably be even a better option, since everybody can now, since it's a portal that everybody can take. And realistically, how often are you going to be using that levitate in the game? It's a bit hard to get off, especially with the restrictions around the auto attacking. You will find yourself in a lot of situations where you can't even get the levitate off in time when you want to, and by the time it's up, you know, the Pokemon you're trying to jump to is down, and you just end up levitating to the base. So that is going to be this week's tier list. Let me know down in the comments if you agree or disagree with any of these placements. Who do you think should be moved up? Who do you think should be moved down? I'd love to hear your thoughts on that matter. So before we finish, I just want to go over the poll I put up last week. I asked you guys which upcoming features or releases that you are most excited for. Throughout the week, it seems that map changes was going to take it by a landslide. But then near the end, a lot of votes for the Mega Evolution seemed to come in, and perhaps it has something to do with the Mega Victory Bell and Mega Hawlucha that had just been announced by Pokemon. But map changes still taking the cake at 38%, followed by more Mega Evolutions at 31%, more Pokemon releases at the 24%, and last is the new game modes like the Auto Chess or the Electro Volleyball that we got. A lot of hype seems to have died down around the side game modes. Having more exciting features like new map changes and new Pokemon to play with are definitely always going to be the best option. Don't forget to like if you enjoyed the video, and subscribe if you haven't already. And until next time, guys, stay nasty.